Happy Thursday. It is Woodbine Live. We are back and excited to be streaming live again tonight. I'm Dan Tordjman. Emily Gullikson is with me tonight. You may have noticed, if you've been watching the show every week, we are short a person. Ashley Mayo is on a very well-deserved, hard-earned vacation. So we're without Ashley tonight. But what that means is that you'll get probably a lot more Emily, because I generally, when it's just the two of us, I'd like to yield to her to do most of the talking and handicapping because she's just better at it. And in the 7 o'clock hour, when we move to the standard,
everybody heard that, by the way. I hope everybody heard that. Okay, all right,
well,
continue.
Yeah, it's on video now, so there's no taking it back. In the 7 o'clock hour, we'll have Robert Reid Jr. from the Horse Players Journal helping us handicap the races from Woodbine Mohawk Park. And as always, he'll be giving us his power singles for the late pick four and other sequences that we're going to be playing along with. So as we get things started, I want to remind people tonight, as always, drop us a comment with your questions. You got opinions on the races, you want to let us know what you're betting, let us know your reactions to the races, your reactions to our selections. If you think we're crazy or we're on point, we want to hear from you. So let us know what you think. But without further ado, you know her as a partner at Optics EQ, horse player, handicapper, analyst at Brisnet. Emily, let's talk about this card. We've got 3 really good races coming up at Woodbine, and let's kick it off with the first race of the night, race 6. They're going long on the turf.
Yeah, do you want to pull up the video that way you can get a look at these horses and get the board?
There you go.
This is there we go. Yeah, I think this is part of we talked about, I think like the first week, talked about the marathon series. So, keep that in mind. We've got a 10 furlong race. These are tough. Some of these horses, it's going to be kind of pace dependent. Seems like you want to be forwardly placed. There's a little wind going on today, just kind of watching the earlier races. But again, 10 furlongs, we'll see how that works out. And then have some stamina. So I think in terms of that, when I was analyzing this race a few days in advance and just kind of looking at the way the public would sort of assess this race, pretty much thought that the 3 horses that are taking money are taking money. The number 7, Buy Me Candy, coming in from the Naira circuit. The number 8, Pride of Distinction, he's got that edge with the marathon distance. And then the number 6, Mind the Gap, just kind of based on his current form and speed figures, that those horses would take the bulk of the action. And it's just a spot where, I just have a hard time just like taking a short price. It's like I can make a case all these horses are capable. Mind the Gap, again, he's going to be tested for stamina here, but has a little bit of speed, so maybe that can kind of overcome the distance. There really hasn't been too much of an excuse for him, to be honest, in those last few races.
Yep.
As well. Buy Me Candy, they had scratched out of an allowance at Saratoga, going 9 furlongs earlier this month. Another one, I just think, this is probably maybe a good spot to try him in this series and see if he handles it, then we have, the option in terms of more ground. And then the horse that's a little bit more proven, Pride of Distinction, been able to kind of get perfect trips, but he's that kind of that known horse. He's got current form this season, a good race coming back off the 245-day layoff, and did everything but get the win on July 11th. That was a solid effort for the level. Last time out, make a case for a little bit of regression kind of off that effort. So, all those horses, they certainly make sense. I would probably, I get the idea with Buy Me Candy, makes sense. But again, you have those unknowns. Pride of Distinction kind of pops of those 3. But I wanted to go a completely kind of different direction in here. And so my sort of approach handicapping this, I think it's important that people have like a process. So if I'm not going to take a short price, I can kind of analyze those 3, maybe 8 turns out to be a little bit playable. We'll see. But I also don't want the horses that have run for a tag. And so that eliminates 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. So that leaves me with the 5, which is a filly in this field. And she's actually really interesting. She's making her second start off the layoff. And that was a trouble trip. She has tons of upside off that. The optics note improved last time out. And I just, I like this kind of spot for her. She has class. She's run at the allowance. Distance, we're going to find out. But, she just doesn't seem like there is a distance limitation. I take that back. She has an 11 furlong race. Going back to last year, she had a free trip. It was in the maiden day, second off, but a good effort to kind of like rounding into form. So there are those positives with her coming into this race, and just kind of the horse that I would be kind of the most comfortable messing around with and letting one of those shorter prices beat me.
Yeah. So Cimmerian is an interesting one. And I had a feeling, I feel like I'm sort of starting to get into your head and starting to understand your process. And I had a feeling you would land on this one. I thought, so, I like, as I say every week, I just watch a ton of replays, too many replays, because I have like a horrible memory. So I have no choice but to watch replays, just to kind of truly remember how a race unfolded. And in that last race, I don't know, maybe it was the soft going, maybe the horse just needed a race off that long break. But it was interesting to me that she didn't maintain the early position that she usually does, or at least that she has when she's run well. She actually broke fine from the gate, but was taken back off the pace early on. And so I just, maybe Daisuke Fukumoto didn't want her to get caught out wide early, but it didn't seem like a move that really played or plays to her usual running style or her strengths. And so I thought that was a good race to really put a line through and say, look, is there enough back form here? And do we potentially think she could take that next step? And then I also looked at the barn. Rachel Halden, second off the layoff, is 25% off a 40 race sample going back a couple of years. She also hits the board with a lot of these too, shows positive ROI. So I thought for sure Cimmerian was a horse to use at a minimum underneath. And when you look at the price, we're looking at 9-1 right now. That's certainly appealing. I know I get the case you're making on class with some of the other ones. For me, though, I just couldn't get past the 3-horse Deep Freeze from a pace perspective. There's just, I know this isn't like a mile or a mile. We're talking about 1.25 miles. And so you figure, pace, maybe doesn't come into play as much. But it looks like he'll be lone speed by 1 mile here and should be able to slow it down. And so then the question becomes, can he get the distance? And he's a horse that has won on the front end at 1 1/8 miles, as well as 1 1/16 miles. And so I thought there was a real good possibility this horse could get to the front, slow things down, and might be tough to catch because I thought, at least on paper, one of the horses you touched on earlier, the horse that seemed like the best horse in the race, all things being equal, was the 8-horse Pride of Distinction. But for me, I thought with that one, the longer the distance, the better. And I just, and I mean even longer than this if possible. And so I thought that if there isn't any pace and if there's no real setup, this horse is going to be so far out of it that he's going to have just so much work to do late in order to catch Mr. Freeze, Deep Freeze, slightly different horse. But yeah, I thought that he would make a move from off the pace and be a factor there. So I'm basically Deep Freeze. The way I envision it is Pride of Distinction closing, and then I also like Cimmerian in the mix there.
Yeah, so. I think the pace is going to be a little bit more contested, to be honest. Mind the Gap has been dueling in his last few races, and again, these are coming out of tougher allowance races. So he has enough speed easily to go with the number 3. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, just in terms of form cycle, he kind of wants that front end trip, wants to be alone. He had a lot of pressure last time out. It was a blanket finish up the wire. If we watch the replay, then there could be some regression coming off that race, especially now that he's got to go longer and if he takes pressure and things like that. So just in terms of finish, I would be surprised if he's lone. I mean, the one is capable of showing speed as well. Kind of moving forward in terms of a form cycle with him, he's just never, it's hard to just kind of make a case that he can win. But, moving forward, and definitely you think from the inside post, they were drawn outside last time, to just be a little bit more tactical. I mean, that's kind of, sometimes you just have to put your horse in the race. And I just think that's going to be the case here. Again, one of those that just kind of needs a perfect trip. I mean, even some of these horses, Buy Me Candy, he's been forwardly placed. I don't think he's going to be that far back doing something new and shipping in. I think they'd want to get him in the race as much as they can, scratching out of the other spot to run here. There's some positive intent. I don't think they'd want to be as far back as they were last time. Again, those are, kind of tougher fields. So you can make a case they're going to be a little bit closer, a little bit more tactical in a spot like this. And then similar for Rocket Plan. I mean, he's coming out of those much shorter races. He's got speed. He's drawn outside. It's like, what kind of chance do you have? Like, you've got to go, or just why are you even here? Like that type of thing.
Yeah,
so
I thought Rocket Plan would be the one who who goes early from the outside. I thought that would be the one. With some of the other ones you mentioned, specifically with Mind the Gap, I didn't know what to take from, if they were signaling, that maybe they were trying something different with the blinkers coming off. I have a lot of questions with that one. And I don't love the trainer change either. Going from Arnaud Delacour to, Sittard, who's, winning, who wins at a very, has a very low win rate, especially on the turf. And, this is a horse who, yes, has shown speed in the past and is generally going to be forwardly placed. But if you look at some of the splits where he's been up front, I mean, it's not like they were going that fast. If Deep Freeze wanted to, he could certainly do a half in 47 or sub 47. I mean, it wouldn't benefit him in any way, but he could do that. And I think that if he at least gets out and does that first quarter fast and slows it down, some of these might be hesitant to go. But that's the beauty of this. I think trying to figure out how this pace unfolds, because I think that is ultimately the key to the race. I will say, looking at the board right now, when I see Self-Inflicted at 13-1, I think it's a very short price for that horse. That was one of my first tosses. I think that horse has absolutely zero shot. I also felt the other horse who had no shot was the 4-horse Insider Trading, but that one's 33-1, so I'm not really telling you much. The 1-horse English Classic you touched on a little bit. And you also talked about that maiden win last year, the race that Cimmerian comes out of. That was at 1 3/8 on the turf, but he hasn't even hit the board in 7 starts since then. So again, tough to use the horse given, what he's shown since then. He feels like a horse that may hang around. Like you said, he could be forwardly placed, or at least, kind of sitting just behind them, saving ground. So maybe he can hang around for a piece. Maybe he's got enough. I don't think the horse necessarily, it's hurt by this distance. I think the distance is fine. I think he'll relish it. It's just a matter of whether he's good enough. And there aren't really. I think all these horses are somewhat flawed in this race. I see issues with all of them. So
yeah, that was why, like, going through my process is it was just sort of like, it's almost like a process of elimination play. It's like, I don't want the horses at a short price. I don't want the horses that are kind of class compromised or a little bit plotty, that need just sort of everything to go their way to win. So it's one horse. Like, there's one horse that's left standing. I know this is kind of like, if you read a lot of old handicapping books like Kramer and stuff like that, this comes up like the lesser of evils type angle, but that's kind of what's going on here. It's like, not a short price. Everyone else is sort of a toss. Yep. So this is it. You're getting a square price. As she's been sticking around at 8. Took a little bit of early money in the double. So I think that those are all positives. I think in terms of there being upside a lot. I mean, you talk about the trip. That's sort of a trip that is not great at the time, but is great the next time, because it's one that she can move forward from, and it's not crazy troubled where everyone saw it. And she has numbers, she's very lightly raced 4-year-old, had some setbacks as a juvenile and a 3-year-old, but has numbers in her 3-year-old season to run back to that are competitive in here. And you could even project to move forward. It's hard to say, like, in terms of speed figures at this distance, because they're so hard to make. I mean, we at Optics, like, we flag them because it's like, how many, 11 furlong, 10 furlong, 12 races are there? throughout, let alone in a day, you know. So it's like you kind of, sometimes those numbers can be kind of a little just, you know, off. You just want to kind of like question them a little bit. So I think she fits in here again, you know, has to have upside, but getting the other benefits in this spot. So yeah, I mean, you know, 1 I think is a good like kind of underneath key. I know that's sort of like your play. How are you gonna approach it?
So I think in my original analysis of this race, I'm still, I know you have your doubts about Deep Freeze. I like Deep Freeze a lot. So I kind of came up with just sort of, this is a basic ticket here, $15 exact Deep Freeze on top of Pride of Distinction, and then $5 the other way around, just if by some chance, you know, if Deep Freeze does get softened up and Pride of Distinction can stay in touch and make a move and get up. You know, I don't necessarily, I mean, I think this is probably what I was expecting in terms of, you know, what the board would look like specifically with the favorites. I know the 6 Mind the Gap was 7-2 morning line. I for some reason I just thought the horse would drift a bit more. I'm surprised that, you know, he's holding steady at 4-1. So this is kind of like just the way I'd play the race straight up. And then I put together another pick 3 play. You can, of course, if you're playing at Woodbine, you could play these for as little as 20 cents. This is $1 ticket, going 2 by 3 by 3. You know, hoping that we you know, can get the better of the 2 prices in this leg, and then a couple of options. That last leg's gonna be tough. That race I think is quite a puzzle. But I think we could get there with 2 by 3 in these first 2. For you, I know obviously you like a horse at 8-1 here. Do you approach it just with a simple win place bet, or are you going to go back to playing?
Well, it'd be win only. Like, okay. There's no, I'm not. I'm just sort of more like, you're not in. Yeah. Like, I'll be, if she finishes second and pays like $4 or whatever, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm more aggressive in that sense. Sheldon jumped it in 167 exacta box. I mean, I like your tickets. I know we have different opinions, but I like the way that they sort of represent your opinion. Today, I think that's good and really important. Like in gambling, especially like looking at the second leg, I think the favorite is super vulnerable. You can see right now, the number 1. Mm-hmm. I think that horse is vulnerable. So I noticed you don't have that horse on your ticket. So I think you're already one step ahead of the game, trying to beat that horse and finding value. Yeah.
Well, the horse had a dream trip last out, and
stepping up in class. Like that horse is like, those are the type of horses that, like, when I see them come up as the favorite, I'm like, ooh, time to get busy on this race.
For sure.
So yeah, like that's for sure. And the last race of the night, race 8, I gave a strong look to the 1. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watched that trip last time out, but that was a sneaky good.
The 1 just missed my cut. That was the very next horse I had. So
yeah. All right. I'm just like, it's out in the open. But I mean, kind of the same idea. Like, we've seen these maiden races go throughout the whole time we've done it. They're pretty chaotic. Sometimes the chalk wins. Sometimes it's anybody. So you kind of just have to live and die with who you want to take a stand with.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to let people hear the sound of this race. We may comment. We'll try not to comment too often so we're not speaking over the call and annoying our loyal viewers. Keep sending us your picks, your reactions. Let us know what you're doing here as you're betting the races at Woodbine with us. Let's enjoy the 6th race now coming up. To repeat, I've got 3-8 here as my 2 primary horses. Emily likes the 5, now at 10-1.
One of the best into stride is Deep Freeze towards the inside. Away okay was English.
We'll see if you're lone up here.
On the outside is
not going to happen.
Engaged each other a bit.
Although I didn't think the 5 would be up there to be 4 wide, so I can't say that's favorable either. But
3 lengths to self-inflict.
English Classic. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see English Classic being on the lead. Now they're just. It's just like is that a 2 or 3-way go? 3-way go up front. So we're both in trouble here.
So they're a bit of a speed battle here with a beautiful trail.
They're not going fast.
Yeah, I mean, no, they're not. And the 5 can kind of look like she's going to kind of tuck in a little bit, which is good. you know, we'll see. I mean, they could probably slow it down here. We got a lot of race left. A lot of race. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting when you talk about pace. It's just kind of understanding like why horses get the trips that they get. And like the one from the rail, it was just kind of like you almost have to put the horse in a race like in this. I mean, you know, like maybe they would be content on getting the pocket, but once you kind of send from that spot, you're committed.
1.5 inside of trading. Sumerian, one to Buy Me Candy. Mind the Gab's had a good run, cuddled up on the inside, and Self-Inflicted tracks the pack okay. A long break to Pride of
Distinction. There's my toss, Self-Inflicted.
Still 5 or 6 behind them, and 3.5 to Rocket Plan is last. Inside the final
English Classic actually
out in front. Second, with
could get brave here, yeah.
Together on the outside, Sumerian, but English Classic with the rail. Deep
Here's
freeze the
Pride of
center.
Distinction
Sumerian
flying on the outside.
Enough, but Buy Me Candy releases the brakes and coming up the rails inside of trading. Pride of Distinction, and on the inside, Mind the Gap. English Classic taken on. Buy Me Candy, and on the inside, Mind the Gap. Mind the Gap. There is a
Mind the Gap up the inside.
Goes to the front. Mind the Gap.
That was an odd race. Wow.
Surely win here. Comes out.
Yeah, you know, and that's why
power left by 5 lengths.
That's why, like, it was one of those where I'm like, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just don't want to take a short price because, I mean, ultimately, I mean,
2-1-57.
Maybe you can make a case. I couldn't get there with Mind the Gap. I mean, kind of got a good trip being inside, being covered up, but off his last couple races, doing something new. I couldn't quite get there, but overall, right idea, not taking a short price. Somebody's got a boom.
Should we invite Fake Maven on? I mean, nailed it, right? 617. I think it. Got all of them. That was a good call.
Definitely.
Yeah, got the better price and
oh, nice. Got the best outcome too.
Yeah.
Well, second best outcome, but we'll take it.
Nice job. No, nice job.
Nice.
Let us know who you got next. Let's keep the momentum going here. But great pick. And I think, look, when you looked at Mind the Gap, I just saw too many things that I thought were red flags. I mean, they're not like I shouldn't have completely tossed the horse, but you know, and we even talked about it. I thought this horse would be more forwardly placed. I thought he'd be, if any horse would get mixed up in it, I thought this one would. And I just didn't love the trainer switch. I mean, this was a horse that obviously wanted to go long on the turf. I mean, they had the 2 races that were washed off. If you watch the turf races from last year, I mean, the horse was just like the horse's action was just so much more fluid, and the horse looked happier on the turf. I just, again, I just had some questions about the blinkers coming off and the trainer change, which I obviously read way too much into.
Yeah. I mean, again, I just think it's the race shapes. I mean, that was kind of an ideal trip, some errors of other riders in the race. I mean, the 5 didn't show up, but again, that's not a winning trip. Like right in the first quarter, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like unless there's a miracle, like this isn't happening, because those trips just don't, they don't win on the turf. Kind of got the right setup. Those being inside, I think was good. I think so. We saw all those horses. Super good ride on English Classic. I mean, that's what you have to do on a horse like that. It's like you have the inside post. You're not going to outkick some of the others. Just take the race to them, and got a little share. I mean, even the 4 was inside, insider trading, So I think that was all kind of a positive in terms of where you wanted to be. So we'll keep that in mind, kind of going
for
forward.
Sure. With Sumerian, interesting. You were talking about the trip. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of those situations where the trainer perhaps tells the jock, look, I don't know what you were doing last out and why you had this horse, 10 lengths back at the start of the race, when we know that she generally likes to be somewhat forwardly placed, and that's where she's always been. So I think he probably had in his mind, I've got to at least keep this horse close. And before, he could even find a spot, he realized they weren't going fast enough, and he was stacked up 3 wide. And then I think he was thinking for a moment there, it looked like he was trying to, should I keep
going?
Should I clear? Yeah. And then I think he just ultimately decided to take back. But a lot of these, only. And again, this is a decent. This isn't like this is a decent level. This isn't like a bottom level claimer. But so many of these horses, they don't have 2 or 3 moves, and they can't deal with a ton of adversity. So, the second you start, any sort of hesitation, you get a horse stuck out wide, then you take the horse back. Only the really good horses are truly, that, what's the word? They're that tactical and that, or that, like, that you could sort of, you can actually tell them, here, do this, and their push button, they go, or you tell them stop and they stop. I just,
that really is class, right? Of a horse that has gears and that is able to kind of like find adversity, like re-rally, do those types of things. That it does take a special horse. And those horses are rare. Like that's where, we see these 5-horse fields in graded stakes, because there's just a lot of horses that just don't, that just don't have it. I don't know.
Bruce is watching from up north, and pointing out the trainer and jock combos, of course, deserve a look. I'm assuming my dad was riding with me, so he is making excuses for deep freeze for me, which I appreciate. Deep freeze was pressed. And so we move on. We move on to the 7th race of the night. Another interesting race. I didn't land on horses that I think will be. We'll see when the odds go up here in a moment. I thought I landed on some potential prices, and I have, for now at least. Oh no, this is the morning line, isn't it? So yeah. So
no. This should be live right now.
Oh yeah, it is live. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So so there are a couple of horses at prices that I like. Let's just talk about this race and set it up from a pace perspective. This is another allowance here, going 7 furlongs on the all weather here. So switch it over to the Tapeta. In terms of pace, again, the way I saw it, the 2-horse Striking Moon might enjoy a good portion of this race alone on the lead. I might be wrong. I'll let you tell me what you think about how the pace unfolds here. But this horse needs to last an extra furlong and a half on the front end while stepping back up into allowance company, where previously he's come up short. Now, horses lined up behind him, maybe Cash Dividend, who kind of sat that stalking trip we talked a moment ago, last out on the rail, saved ground, and then it was actually 2 wide last out, if I remember correctly, and then just kind of got first run on everybody. Miracle Silver could be there, just that next flight, and also Drinking My Hand could also be there up close. And so that's the way I sort of envision the race from a pace perspective. I like Storm Fury a lot, and I can elaborate more, but I'm going to kick it over to you. But at least from a pace perspective, that's the way I envisioned it. So.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Optics Plot, kind of the tool that I use, and again, when you're looking at pace, you have to look at form and you have to look at class and speed, but this kind of helps just show like how the horses like position in relationship to each other. So number 2, Striking Moon, does have early speed, but doesn't look to have any real kind of tactical advantage over the number 8, Electronic, or number 9, Drinking My Hand. And even number 3, even though this is kind of a bit of an unknown in terms of surface and distance, but in terms of his speed is actually kind of right on par there. So I think, him being forwardly placed would not be surprised to see that. Cash Dividend last time out just got a free trip, covered up, had the right pace scenario, to make his move. It was just a race it was a good race. It's tough to knock, but was flattered. This is a big step from class. I know the speed figure was what it was, but keep in mind, everything going its own way, coming off a layoff. In order to repeat, it's like, is he going to get another perfect trip and still be able to pair? It's a lot of unknowns, and he's cold on the board right now, so that's not always the best sign. Moving up in class as well, Striking Moon, best of the speed last time out, which was a change from his 2 previous starts this meet, where he broke slow.
Right now, by the way, so obviously took a big early bet there and Dropped to 2 to 1.
Yeah, maybe people are kind of seeing it sort of the same way as you, that like he is going to be lone speed, and maybe that's what some of the reaction is. But his first 2 starts and those races, the first 2 starts this season coming back, were against tougher. He broke slow in both those races, so I think last time out with the class drop, he was able to just kind of overcome, just had the class in order to do it, and might be a little bit under pressure to do it here. Miracle Silver, talked about him just in terms of his ability to kind of be on the pace, even though it doesn't quite look like it, but I think he could be up there and probably will be. In terms of Courtly Manor's out, Sherwood Forest, I can make a case for him, but I just, this running style looks a lot like some of these other closers we've seen that just like are not getting the trip on this course.
I was going to say, make the case. There's definitely like, some, if you go back far enough, you could definitely make the case.
Yeah, and there's been some trips this season. Obviously, he's actually been running well at this level, to be honest. Those, it was a bunched up scenario on July 4th, which is just kind of one of those weird kind of extreme race shapes. And again, that just sort of helped him that day. And I think because of that, they tried to take him well off the pace last time out, which was not ideal and not what he wants to do, where he was wide and still came with a good close. Doesn't have to be that far back. But again, I mean, I don't know if they tend to ride him like that today, then he's going to, then he has to work a trip. But I can definitely make a case for him. His last 2 efforts were competitive at this level. And again, he can win, just completely trip dependent. Number 6 to me just looks completely like a toss. I rarely say that, but he just looks really far below, just in terms of classes, form, all that stuff. So if somebody wants to make a case there, I'm all for it.
We might have to call in Ashley. I'm not doing it.
Stormfur, I agree with you. I think he's a solid fit in this race. A little surprising to see 6 to 1 because he fits on class, speed, should get a good trip. Was closing last time out into a slow pace, and I think there's good positive intent with a rider change today. So I think that horse is super logical, fair price. I don't know, maybe a little bit too far back in terms of trip. I don't know why he's as cold on the board. I'm interested in the number 8, Electronic, has some tactical speed. Also another one that's kind of stepping up in class. Switch over to my notes because it just went away. It just, similar kind of overall form to Cash Dividend and a better price. And I mean, that's just kind of what it comes down to. Has more upside making his second start off than Cash Dividend, who got the trip last time out. That common race on July 17th has been really productive. A couple next out winners. So I think there's a lot to like there, and pretty live. I mean, 5 to 1 right now is it's pretty live for him. Trying to see, off the 8 to 1 morning line. So I'm interested there. And then just a little, class-wise, just looks a little bit soft to me. Drink in My Hand had a pretty favorable trip coming back in June. Got a pocket trip, was able to save ground. A perfect trip last time out. Draws a far outside post here. So, again, you get those perfect trips at a softer level. Now you have an outside post. He's been able to save ground in the past. Probably not the case here unless they take all the way back. And if they do that, forget it. So it's just kind of hard to see in terms of race design where he's going to get a trip. So, I mean, it looks to me like a 7-8, and then keep an eye on the 7 because not impossible.
Yeah, no, I think that price will probably come down on the 7. On the 9, Drink in My Hand, though he's won twice at this distance, I thought just watching his replays, he always seems to hit a bit of a wall, like right at 6 furlongs. And I think he's just his wins at 7 furlongs have been the logical result of him just, kind of just beating inferior horses and getting the right trip in those races. I just don't know that unless things go his way at this level that he's going to be able to pull it off, because it does seem like he flattens out a little bit. Always a little bit late, but certainly, going a little bit longer here than last out. I would think we might see something similar, or just going 7 furlongs longer than usual. I think we might see a little bit of flattening out. With Electronic, I'm with you. Look, the horse, was basically just trapped behind that wall of tiring horses in front of him last out, didn't get out. Cash Dividend obviously benefited from being to his outside. It would be interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they both would have gotten clear, and who would have made it to the line first if they did. I do want to go back to the 3-horse Miracle Silver, because you made the case, and I think quite logically, and again, if you look at just scroll through the PPs, it looks like this is a horse who's got some early foot, who's generally forwardly placed, and his best races, or his best finishes at least, have been going longer on the lead. But I think just from watching replays that he's actually run sneaky well when he's rated off the pace in some of his recent starts. And that's almost certainly, I think, what he'll be doing here behind Striking Moon. Last out on the turf, they took him a length or so back, and you could tell that he wanted to go early. He was kind of just, throwing the head around just a little bit, and he was striding like he wanted it to go. But he did eventually settle down and did good work to finish 4th there, I thought, considering he was in, tight quarters throughout. And he really didn't have clear running room probably until they hit about the 16th pole. Going 7 in the start 3 backs, he again broke well and was again asked to settle. He settled into a nice stride, but didn't fire, obviously, or didn't fire that well off that break. And so, I think, when you look through, and then you also look at the company lines, you got Silent Poet there, who came back and just ran pretty well in a grade 2 over the weekend. That was a tough spot. I think when you look at this horse, and assuming they're trying to get him, and they've been trying to get him to become comfortable with settling off the pace a little bit more, if that's what they're trying to do with him here, they should have a target in front of them, and they should be able, given the inside draw, to not lose much ground. And so I just thought the horse was intriguing from that perspective. I could sort of envision a trip for this horse. And for that reason, I really like him. And I like him even more now at 7-1, which means he's holding pretty close to what the morning line was, which was 8-1. In spite of the scratch, which, I mean, the horse that scratched by the Courtly Manor was 20-1 in the morning line. I didn't give the horse much of a shot, but I think Miracle Silver for me, you stack him up side by side with a horse like Cash Dividend, who we're obviously talking so much trash about right now that Cash Dividend just basically has to win. No,
he doesn't. We can be right.
Yeah, no.
The public's feeling it too. He's chilly.
Yeah. So Fake Maven, who was hot in the last race, 7 for sure, not impossible. So last time he gave us his picks. Now he's telling us who he's not throwing out. So we'll see if he's willing to divulge his selections for this race. Gio Ponte's back. No Ashley tonight. Yep, unfortunately, no Ashley tonight. She'll be back next week. Now, Ashley, even though she big-timed us, will still be appearing tonight on Betting After Dark. So the late night show. Now, she's on vacation. I make no promises about, I know, as you know, she's a big White Claw fan and all the rest of it. She's on a beach somewhere. So I would assume she's going to be, sort of totally ready for the show tonight. But she might have a White Claw in hand. If you want to watch her, you can catch that at Anita Marks on Twitter. They'll be looking at some of the races this weekend at Del Mar. Speaking of, by the way, have you started to dive into the card at Del Mar on Saturday yet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they draw early. That card was drawn on Sunday. So yeah, I've looked at the card. It's a good card. There's 5 stakes races. I was on a podcast earlier with my good friend Scott Shapiro, went over those races. But yeah, if there's, we got some downtime here, so we're just kind of waiting to get our final odds. If we want to talk about anything on there, I'm ready to go.
What do you think? I mean, I thought one race that was, at least to me, just kind of looking through the PPs a couple of times last night and earlier today, I thought that Del Mar Oaks is a really, really fun betting race. I mean, you got two horses making their first start in the U.S. And they get the 2 top riders, Rispoli and Pratt. So you got, I would imagine, and they're both graded stakes winners or group winners in France as well. So you got to figure those 2 horses are legit. And then there are just a bunch of horses who, again, if you like diving into replays, I mean, watching some of those races that those horses come out of, you could find a lot of interesting things in some of those replays. So I thought that race, again, given the fact that you have the 2 Euros who are kind of unknown, but if you exclude them from the mix, and say, you know, who else here stands out, who could potentially get the right trip and win this race, I thought there were a couple of ways you could go. How did you see that race?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to look past those European horses. I've watched their form. Their form stacks up in here. Both of them have been on the grounds for a while. Well, maybe not Miss Extra because she just ran on July 5th, I believe. As far as Miss Extra goes, she's in galloping here. Looks good in the morning. She's holding her form. I think for her last trip was like kind of a sneaky excuse. She had won previously, really strong effort. Last time out, just not quite. Just didn't quite get the right trip for her. And I thought she still ran well, all things considered. But I think the one thing that will really help her here is a left-handed turn, because she finishes so strong on her right lead, and she's coming out of those right-hand turn races. I think she's going to like this kind of change here. It's funny, I was doing the podcast earlier. I always butcher names, and so
Beige Blanche.
It's how you say beige, but with an N. That's how he said it. So that I'm pretty much like beige with an N, Blanche. Powell looks to have had her. He's had her here. His horse has been running like lights out. If you haven't been following Del Mar, Leonard Powell's horses are just like they're running at their top right now. She's been coming in, like kind of just pointing to this race, just looks really good. I know her works on paper won't look like much, but watching those races, they're just straight up a gallop. So both those horses, you cannot leave them out. Laura's Light maybe is going to be the favorite. You know, it just depends on how they react to the European horses, but she's coming off 2 perfect trips. I think she's vulnerable in this spot. She has the outside draw. I don't think this is an ideal distance for her. I know she's won at 9 furlongs, but that day she had everything go right and was kind of all out to hold on. It was a blanket finish at the wire. So if she's a short price, I'm against her. The one horse that I like that's local and she's former European horse is Red Lark. She ran against Older in the Grade 3 Wilshire, finished a good race behind Toynette, who's a legit graded stakes horse, legit older graded stakes horse. So that holds up her form. Last time out, the trip just cost her a better placing. She has a big race in her. So I'm kind of leaning on those 3, beige with an N, Blanche, Miss Extra, and Red Lark. That's sort of where I'm going. And then, you know, Leonard Powell also has Gutty, which is like guilty without an L, who ran a career top. I think a lot of people are going to land there, and she could win. Last time out, she ran a big top. Again, keep in mind his horses are running live. That was a 10-point top from anything she had ever run in the past. That was kind of her day. She's going to have to pair that up against this field, and it's a lot. And I think a lot of people will land there because that race was really good. There's nothing to knock, but it's just again, it's overall form cycle. You just kind of look at what happened that day, what she's going to need to compete against this field, and again, just kind of go that up against the value.
Yeah, no. So again, fresh off of misreading, you know, the way the pace would unfold in the last race at Woodbine. When I looked at the pace, the Del Mar Oaks, it seemed to me that you've got, in addition to Laura's Light, that horse Parkour, who has been up against Laura's Light before. I think one time they faced each other. Parkour was up front, like it went like 46 flat, and Laura's Light was, you know, like 10 lengths behind. And then another time, you know, last year, earlier in the year, at least Laura's Light basically, you know, was on the lead. And I think you referenced that race too. Got a perfect trip a couple races back, and always seems to get the right trip. But then you had the stretching out horse Aqua Seaform Shame, which is that a Nirvana reference? Is that what that is? Like all apologies?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Anyway, I thought I could count on you. I mean, you are an 80s child, right? Who kind of came of age in the 90s like me.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of interesting. So, like, by the time that was all going around, I had already been like deeper in the underground of punk, and I was like, "That's just not hard
like
enough.
I was way.
It's not what I'm searching for right now. Like, I'm ready to like smash the system, like straight up. You know, like I want a Mohawk. My mama let me have one. That's what I was like leaning towards at that time, believe it or not. So, in my older, I've kind of like come back around to it, but you know, I don't know. you couldn't count on me, and I'm sorry. Yeah, the stretch out is a big unknown, and I think like we saw in the last race, sometimes it's like you can't really take a horse out of their run style too much. I mean, she's got to be forwardly placed. The rails will be in, so we're going to kind of get some fairly run races. When the rails are out at Del Mar, it does make a difference. Horses that are forwardly placed, regardless of what kind of pace they set, they can still hold on. We've seen that a lot this meet. So, yeah, that's it's a good race. It's one of many, but really competitive.
So Nirvana, New Kids on the Block, back in '91, they're all the same thing to you, all equally dead to you, right?
Well,
Nirvana
that was New Kids was a little bit earlier, but like by the time I was like in middle school with Nirvana, I was already like hardcore punk rocker.
Yeah, no, look, I respect that entirely. One last thing on Giti or Gutti or whatever the pronunciation is. I thought from watching like her last 6 races, I thought the ride she got, and I feel like I've been doing this more lately, and I'm trying not to do it. I know like Brice Blanc is like, he's like this classic journeyman, great, solid turf rider and all that. So I'm not trying to knock him. I just thought he was an awful fit for her. I think he's been in the U.S. long enough now where he kind of at times will panic and will try to put a horse into a race or get a horse into a race earlier than necessary. And I thought in watching some of those replays, this is a horse who makes one run. And I thought watching her over and over again, he continued to, he's asked her like down the backstretch or earlier in the race, wherever it was, and he'll make a middle move or he'll make an earlier move that ultimately just kind of left her a little empty late. And I thought the switch last out to Juan Hernandez, I thought that actually might have brought out more in her than we'd seen before, because what did he do? He bided his time. They waited back there. They got a great setup. They had plenty of pace to run into, but he asked her and she went and she kept going and going and going. And so I think, given the pace that we've just discussed, if we can get the same thing to unfold, we might see a similar result, or maybe she'll get up. But as you said, when horses, hit a career top, hit a new number they haven't hit, and their nearest number is so far below that number, that does raise some red flags, and you want to proceed with caution. So I can certainly respect that perspective as well.
Yeah, and again, it's again, I agree. I thought the effort was great, like just no knocks there, but field quality is just much deeper today as well. And again, they have another outside post. I mean, she's had such bad luck in terms of the draw, but getting another far outside post today, it's going to kind of force them to take back. And sometimes even if, the pace is really fast, that can have deeper closers, even further back. So, yeah, I mean, if she scores, I'll be thinking of you in this spot. But I'm probably sticking with those. And again, I'm expecting maybe she takes just a little bit more action because of that last race. Yep.
Well, Inside the Pylons, obviously, a huge fan of my approach. Of course, I think taking a little bit of a shot here and obviously insinuating that, the Euros are probably tops in here, and you might be reaching a little bit if you want to go for the horses who've been running at Del Mar. Get that. And again, the lead change, left-handed turn stuff that you brought up, really good stuff. So kudos to you on that. And here we go. It's a lot easier when you have to write Neige Blanche as opposed to saying it. Pratt
100%
chooses her versus either Miller horse. And let's see. Yeah, what do you think about this? Miss Extra, no Lasix. Is that an inside joke?
No. I mean, I think I think he's also kind of taking the piss right here, because people talk about things that it's like may or may not matter. I mean, she's coming for her. I mean, a lot of times horses come over because they need Lasix, right? Like that's, that's one of the reasons why these horses came over. But she just ran a few days ago or last month, shouldn't say a few days ago, last month. So I don't think it was one of those, like, we're bringing her over because she needs Lasix, but more like, let's see if she can run there. She might need a race. She might need Lasix, but that's just not one of the primary factors that, that would stop me from taking her, because she has so much class. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a couple people who are weighing in with their bets.
All right.
They're betting in this upcoming race at Woodbine, including our good friend SPN, Sean Patrick Nolan, a $4 daily double, 12789 with 457. So getting himself a lot of coverage here, tossing my 3-horse, which I don't appreciate, but not using my my 3-horse at all here. But good luck, Sean. And then our defending champion here, Fake Maven, coming back with the 7. I would assume, pointing out that the price is still pretty solid, 5-1 when he wrote that 9-2 right now. That is a better price than I expected. So hold on one second. I'm actually going to make a bet right here as we're talking.
Yeah, and I'm gonna like zig. I'm gonna zig off the 7 and go to the 5. So I'm gonna be 5-8 to the 1 in the next race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sherwood Forest. Let's see. Okay. Let me know if you hear the audio. I'm going to throw the audio back up here.
Electronic.
Yep.
Got it? Okay, cool.
In my hand at
Got
the
it.
outside gate. For Luis Contreras.
Geoponte's alive.
Last to join will be Grom.
Looks like
for Leo Salas, gate number 6.
he's alive to almost all. Missing.
He's like, no 5, no 5. Or I think we have all the field. Is there like, yeah, we have the 6 would get us.
Yeah.
The 1 horse that I said is a complete toss in here would be.
Distinct leader coming towards
it's not happening. It's not happening.
No.
It's gonna be.
No 1, no 6.
But Sherwood Forest took up the run.
Sherwood Forest.
Striking Moon and Handy is also Grom with on the outer drink in my hand.
Again, I think that last time they were just like, we got a little too lucky. We got to be a little bit more in the race. So as far as I'm concerned, they could stop the race right now.
Right. You don't want to be on. You don't want to be on Striking Moon right now. I mean, the horse.
They settle into stride. At the back,
you don't like that trip sitting there in the pocket?
I mean,
you don't like the 5 back and right up in here?
Yeah, I don't love it, and especially
in front of Stormfair and Sherwood Forest.
Right after they started.
Yeah, 7's getting a trip. 7's getting a trip. This is for sure.
Miracle Silver hunting up the rail, and as they come down the side, Grom is last. Out in front, Electronic. Stormfair's got clear. Has come up to 2nd. A length to drink in my hand. Sherwood Forest. Cash Dividend is running.
I mean, is this free money? Was it this simple?
Full bore has hit the front. Electronic.
Oh God, the 1 could come. No, this should be the 7. This should be the 7.
On the outside, Miracle Silver is well behind. Stormfair in front.
Oh no! No, he's got it.
And on the outside,
I Cash Dividend.
Finishing well. Storm
7
out by a length to Cash Advance. Storm
overthought it. It was like first thought got a little too greedy there. Actually, I did have one in that is a 7-1, so I think having to do the old phone trick. There is a 7-1 somewhere, but yeah, great price. That was the value for sure. Again, I was a little kind of tepid, like why that horse wasn't shorter, but ideal trip. Perfect trip.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I've learned, and again, congrats to our Fake Maven.
Yeah, you guys.
Keep it rolling. You got. I mean, it's worked twice for you, so let us know who you like for the next race. The one thing I've figured out, because like Woodbine is a track that I would generally play on big days. I don't follow the circuit as closely as you do, or I haven't historically, at least. This year, I have spent, just absurd amounts of time focusing on the circuit so that I could obviously be prepared for this show. And, in addition, it seems like at Laurel, where I usually play, they've been washing off the turf and it's been all small fields, so that's not been bettable. So here I am following this circuit. There's really, if you're just like a straight win better or win place better, there are so many horses like this that you could find on a daily basis where, it seems like there's just a lot of bad money in the pool. And it just seems like there's a lot of, I don't know what it is. If people are just like just straight like PP handicapping or ignoring like what variables they're ignoring, but it seems like in terms of just you could follow any circuit. And again, I followed New York closely. I followed I followed Mid-Atlantic. I don't, on such a consistent basis, see horses winning anywhere between 4 and 8 to 1 as consistently as they do here.
Yeah, I mean, following a circuit, essentially, I mean, that's why we created optics, because following a circuit is so time consuming. You can't do them all. You need a team of people. Like, you need to have that information. I mean, this is my full-time job. If this wasn't my full-time job, there's no way I could be following the circuits, because it's so time consuming. I mean, I hear Ashley's on a vacation right now. I'm like envious. Like, there's no way I can take a vacation. Like, I'm gonna move later in the year. I have like 3 days, and I'm literally gonna be like, go for your life. Like, send to the front. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You can, because like there's so much going on. There's so much to do, and it's very time consuming to watch these replays, have a system of making notes. And yeah, there's a lot of people are traditional handicapping players playing that top line. Looking for a lot of ones in the form, not understanding like why horses run good races, bad races, which is hard to tell in the paper form. You have to do replay work and watch these races and do some of the gritty type stuff that I don't think most people like have the time, and that's not a knock on them. It's just
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's just and the only reason I mention is because it just seems like it happens here more. Like I mean, I guess maybe I don't know. Like you've been watching Saratoga, or at least you've seen the results, right? I mean, you see the prices on a daily basis, right? I mean, there aren't as many. At least I don't feel like as that on a consistent basis. If you're handicapping the races, you're going to find a horse at 5 to 1 or 6 to 1 that wins at Saratoga. I don't know. Maybe
It's a big difference here, because you have these horses that are kind of isolated on the circuit, and they're running back. They run back in short rest, which is something that, it doesn't happen a lot in Southern California. It doesn't happen a lot in New York. You see a lot of time between races, horses that, are either like in spots that they lay over the field, and once they're not here, it's like we have these horses run back all the time. They're facing against each other, at these sort of, similar levels. Their improvement, a slight change in distance makes a big difference. And you don't have that. You don't have that a lot. I find this circuit, and actually Indiana Grand, where another track that I play, is similar, because you have a lot of these horses that face off against each other, all the time. People react to what happened last time, not like fully understanding all the dynamics, whether a horse wants to go a little bit longer, or, all these just kind of little things that come into play. But I think that these circuits, there's so many of them that are much different, getting outside of New York.
Speaking of Indiana Grand, I definitely need your help next week there for the Grayson Grass Challenge. Nick Luck, again, schooling all of us. Nick Luck, in England, every week now, 500, 600, he hit again today, which I'm glad he did, certainly, so that we're actually achieving the goal here of raising money for Grayson. But I was nowhere close again. So, all right, it is 6:51. I'm looking in the green room right now, and I see Robert Reid Jr. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a nice week to kind of flush away the disaster that was last Thursday night. But hey, we've had a whole week to get over it.
I wasn't even going to bring it up. I
mean, hey, listen. The one thing about me is, okay, and anyone will tell you this on Twitter, or I mean, if those who interact with me in other places, I'll admit it when I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. I will never try to hide behind excuses. It was a disaster last Thursday night, and that $50 bill and many others went poof. And I did leave with the elephant ears that night. I think we ended up 2 out of 4 in our 4, and one was actually due to a scratch, and then we got the favorite get the job done. But yeah, it was that horse that couldn't lose ended up finishing 4th, and there was a bridge jumper. I mean, God forbid he listened to me. $30,000 to place on that horse. and he finished 4th. Just a horrible trip, nightmarish trip. So we've washed that away, and I'm looking forward to tonight. So we'll move on.
We've got 8 minutes, or at least that's what the board says here, until the first race at Mohawk. As we know, they'll usually take a little bit more time than that. It's 6:53. I think we're probably looking at something closer to 10 minutes, which we don't usually have you in for this portion, but without Ashley here, we figured, hey, you know what? It'd be nice to bring in another friend and start taking a look at race 8 here at Woodbine, last race of the night. Emily, do you want to do the honors of setting the race up?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can go through kind of the same process. I mean, the number 7 right now is currently your favorite. I think the name suits her. She's capable in this spot. There's my one joke of the night. Making the drop in class. Should handle 2 turns. When my jokes don't land, but please.
Yeah, we have
clap.
to. Yeah, I had to remind me. Yeah, that was a joke. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, I mean, has the speed figures back at Gulfstream Park going 2 turns, certainly fit in here. Big drop in class. They were entered in a similar spot a few days ago and just couldn't draw into the race. It was a big full field. There's actually quite a few horses that couldn't get into that race. So the drop, there's some intention behind it. It doesn't look overly crazy. But with that said, I mean, our last couple races, not that great. So kind of relying on class at a short price. Trying to see who else is taking action right now. The number 5 and the number 4, I thought both these horses, kind of grouping them together, fit really well at this level. Both their races here on July 4th were competitive, even though they finished 5th and 4th. Those were, in my opinion, kind of their overall performance was competitive for the level and getting some class relief out of that August 1st race. So I think both those horses fit. It would just be, a matter of price, and looks like, 4, because those 2 horses to me were kind of tough to split. Number 6, Natural Habitat. Currently 9-2. Her last race, her last couple races, honestly, were pretty good. Again, competitive on July 4th and then on July 25th. Kind of a sneaky good effort there, better than looked. Was closing. Did have pace to close into, which is always a little bit concerning, but still kind of a visually good effort. It was kind of the only one in the field despite having pace to close into. And those are pretty hot conditions that day, as well as a headwind in the stretch. I won't go through everybody. I'll try to save something. But the one horse that I did mention is literally the one horse. Had a complete excuse last time out. It was a better than looked effort, was unprepared at the start, and just kind of showed run after getting completely compromised early. And just visually, just kind of watching the race. Again, it's not anything that like overly stands out, but I just watch it and it's like, this is a horse that looks like she can come back and run well at this level. Come back and run back at a similar level, and is actually getting it a little bit softer, maybe a lateral move, all things considered. But just kind of like the overall form cycle, was sprinting, needed a little bit more ground, made a really positive impression on the track on July 16th. So I just think there's some positives here, and is about the price that I expected right now. It's 10-1.
Yeah, and dropping down to this level for the first time. Again, if as you mentioned, Emily, the horse was. I'm surprised that the gate opened when it did. She was still moving her head around, just was not ready, and she ends up spotting them a bunch of ground. But then, ran on pretty well, all in all, there to finish about mid-pack, finish 5th. So certainly worth another look, especially at that 10-1 price. Since I've been drawn to speed tonight, and it hasn't really materialized for me, I'll just mention the one other horse in here who I thought was intriguing as a potential speed play. And, the odds right now, 29-1 on the 3-horse Lakshmi. This is a horse who's shown speed, sprinting, and so obviously stretching out here, you would expect, especially, given the inside draw, will be on or near the front. This is, she was, right in the thick of a 4-way pace duel last out and took the brunt of a filly to her inside who the jock completely lost control of and who kept, bearing out into Lakshmi. I think just given how fast they were going and the trouble associated with that trip, you can really forgive that poor finish. That was her first time at this level. And so, I don't know that, she's not exactly exposed at this level. And, like a lot of the other horses here are. And so if you're looking of the horses who are dropping down, I thought that even though this isn't the first race after the drop down, you could pretty much, at least in my opinion, forgive the last race and give her another shot. So 25 to 1 or thereabouts would be good enough for me to certainly to use in the mix. And then Natural Habitat is one that I like, and I think is probably going to take steady action, probably go off right there at about 4 to 1, 5 to 1 off the 8 to 1 morning line. Didn't get away well.
Real quick with Laxmi, like, how do you address, because to me it's like there's been very little intent on stretching this horse out. So obviously, keeping her shorter, that's typically for a reason. Where do you land on that? Do you look at her and say she's going to love going 2 turns, or you're just like, she's going to be a big price, I just hope she sends to the front and holds on for dear life?
The latter.
The latter. Yeah. To me, I mean, it's like, I guess you can make that case, but there's just kind of nothing visually or from an intent. I'm showing 1 scratch on August 1st, but again, it's it was August 1st. She ran on the 9th, so they had those options, and they wanted to again go shorter versus going longer. So
I mean, look, I think so. First of all, I'm looking at the level, right? These are maiden 15s. These are, I think if it was an allowance race and, we wanted to look at horses with some form and something, or at least even, you could dive into, if you wanted to, some pedigree and say, well, does this make sense here? How has the horse been moving late? With this horse in particular, I mean, there's just really, the form is so muddied up by the breaks and by the fact that, as you said, she's sprinting, and she was sprinting in restricted company, and then all weather, now the turf. So there's nothing that's really going to indicate to me, going to give me confidence that 100% she's going to be able to stretch out effectively, other than thinking that I don't necessarily see any horses here with speed, and oftentimes when you do have a horse stretching out, who has shown speed sprinting, but who is, tired late, that you may sometimes catch a price. And especially at a lower level like this, where, you don't often see too many horses who are going to be flying from the back, running down horses on the front end. So I think it's certainly, at least tactically, an advantage to have speed at this level. But all in all, no, I mean, it's a complete, I think it's a bit of a roll the dice at that price for me. And that was not my top pick, but I think a horse that I would certainly use for sure. And Natural Habitat, as I mentioned, I would probably be my top pick here. This is one, again, just based on recent trips. I thought you could make a case for, and that if there is pace up front, this is one of all of them who should be close enough to the pace, so to where I don't think they're going to get away from her. And if she is further back, I think she could also make a late move. She's done both of those things, so I thought she was intriguing for those reasons. I also realized that we are coming up to post time at Mohawk, so I should probably.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
you're like, Dan, shut up! I need to do this. All right, so we stopped this screen. We're going to get the Mohawk screen up here in a second. And Robert, you may as well just dive into the analysis here of the first race.
Yeah, so we're starting off where we start off most Thursday nights, and that's 2-year-olds. And we're dealing with 2-year-old pacers, non-winners of 5,000 life. So everyone in this race has had a start or more under their belt except for the 9. And really, it's a soft spot because there's that cap of $5,000 in lifetime earnings. I really like a horse in here, and that's the 3, Touch 'em All Joe. He's facing much easier this time. And last time really didn't have much of a chance getting away way back and closing up, nicely in 26-2 for his final quarter. The horse I landed on, my second choice, was actually scratched as a 6 horse, but the 7 Southeast Hanover comes out of that same race and actually beat Touch 'em All Joe last time by a slim margin, but got a much easier trip. Right now, he's currently at 5-2. So those 2 favorites. But the horse that's actually really intriguing me right now is on the screen, or was just on the screen, is the 2 Kincaid Sealster. Not a horse I picked in my top 4. Would have got bumped up to the 4th spot with the scratch the 6, but there is a shoeing change from steel to aluminum tonight, and they're also lengthening his hopples. So the piece of equipment that actually helps him stay on gait on the pace, they're extending it by 2 inches. So they think this horse obviously can stride out more than he has been, or more than he did in his first start. And I think that's definitely a positive thing. And at 14-1, he's one that I would definitely be using, in my multi-leg wagers as a potential bust-out horse, and also underneath the 3 Touch 'em All Joe, who I do really think is the horse to beat in here. So I landed on 3 over the 2, 7, and 8. The 8 was the big favorite, opened off as the big favorite. Now it's floated up to 5-2. I wasn't overly impressed by his last effort. Looks flashy on the page, coming home in 26-4, but to be honest, I think he really should have. And there was a high-profile horse in there that is now racing in the Golds in the OSS tomorrow night. So I think that's why he's taking a lot of play and still at 5-2. But from post 8, I'm certainly not too thrilled to take him at that price. But I do really like the 3 over the 2, 7, and 8. And the 2 is one that I would definitely keep on my radar to spice up the exotics and maybe even be a bust-out horse in the multi-leg wagers.
I like it. As you're talking, I'm formulating here. I'm trying to I'm dipping my toes back in with a little more caution than following last week.
You need to after last week, but I think this is these 2-year-old races we know are unpredictable, right? I mean, horses can improve so much from week to week. The pacers are a little more consistent than the trotters. We're not going to see Macho Martini tonight. He's actually later in the card. A horse like him has just been, super consistent and just a superstar in the sport. These ones here are, haven't had many starts, but haven't had much success yet. So there is an unpredictability factor to these 2-year-old races. But again, I really like Touch 'em All Joe here. He's a horse that been kind of waiting for a softer spot. And if you look at who he's been qualifying against, when he was prepping for his first lifetime start, it's against some real quality horses and he held his own. So now getting the late money at 9-5, no surprise, now 8-5. But again, if you are going to use him, I would look to maybe the 3 and hope that they are very interested off the gate tonight and put him, forwardly placed somewhere maybe in the 2 or 3 hole, and maybe he can bust out and get a big piece of it.
Our friends playing from home, in agreement with you, Robert. We got some doubles and exactas with the 3 primarily. So we will see how this unfolds. Touch 'em All Joe, a reference to Joe Carter, which is
right.
Nice to hear a little baseball reference. And let's see. I'm going to see if I get the audio on this. How does it sound? Do you hear the sound?
Not yet. I don't hear it. There we go.
All right.
Now I hear it.
And they're off, and a good start in the center. Jim Blue is off the switch fast. Outside of that,
so it looks like 5 and 7 are trying to go forward. 2 just kind of fell off the gate.
Sealster, 6 floating out is bet on.
Not a terrible spot.
Further back toward the rail is You Are a Surprise to Me, and the early trailer backed up is Under Warranty. They're driving.
Touch 'em All Joe's probably going to have to remove here, especially with the late money coming in, though, even money. I'd like to think that I move that kind of money, but it's certainly not.
Looking at the comments, it seems like there's some impact.
Back into second. Touch 'em All Joe third, gapping 3 lengths. Downers Delight is 4th inside. Back there 5th is Kincaid Sealster. The 6th one is Under Warranty, rather bet on Blake. 2 more back to You Are a Surprise to Me, and then the trailer Under Warranty. They're gapped out going to the.
Jody's in no hurry here in the 3 hole, so not a big problem though when the horse is gapped out by like 3 lengths. So
Touch 'em All Joe, the even money favorite, is situated 3rd, half and 56-1.
5 is one that I actually landed on last time and went off on this week. It actually happened on the broadcast on Friday night. I went off a horse I was on for 4 consecutive starts, and of course he wins at 5-1. So now they said there's a new angle, the Robert off angle.
What do you think about these horses from the back here? Are they going to make any impact? Or
I don't see it. The 2 starting to move forward, but he's too far out of it, to be honest. I mean, it should just be the front 3 here, and Touch 'em All Joe is coming on now. It looks like it's just going to be the 3 and the 7. He's got to get him straightened out, though. He's running swinging over top of the 7 right now and kind of racing green. I don't think he's going to get him. He'll say it's going to run 7-3. The 2's flying late. Is our price horse in the ticket. He's one to watch for next week. He might get up for 3rd, and he will. So 7-3-2. 20-1 hit the ticket. That's the horse I really thought was one to focus on. The Journal was 3-7-8. Like I said, I would have added the 2 in for 4th, but like I said, I would have bumped him up ahead of the 8 based on those equipment change, the shoeing change, and that equipment change.
Well, you've made one person happy. Pops looks like he boxed your super, which I think came. It looked like the 8 got up for 4th, I think.
I think so. Yeah, the 5 kind of tired late. Let's see here. The 2 is 3rd, and the 8 does get up for 4th. So
there you go.
There you go. So what would have been the top 4 in the Journal comes in, and I mean, when you get the 3 beat again, even money. You know, when I write the Journal, that's the problem, right? Like I'm kind of committed, right? I'm like pot committed on what I pick in the Journal. I don't want to be that guy that goes off what I picked. But you know, at that price at even money, it's tough to take, especially on, like I said, in a race like this. The 2 was one that I would have, you know, loved to see him a little more interest early, but I think we can go back to him next week. The problem is he'll probably be about 2-1 next week.
Well, good spot with that one. That was, I mean, the horse came from just so far back, so like obviously pretty impressive late run there. Also want to talk to you at some point during this hour about some big racing that's coming up at Mohawk, and you'll be a part of some coverage that we're doing. So we'll get into a little bit of that, and then also people have to stick around because you give your locks of the night once we get a little closer to the 8 o'clock hour. So stick with us, and you'll get the pick 4, pick 5 plays and the singles in the late sequences coming up from Robert. Let me do this. Let me remove the screen here and see if we can get back the last race at Woodbine.
I'm actually interested to hear you guys take on a horse here at Woodbine.
Okay.
Which horse?
So I mean, I might be crazy, but see, the horse is still taking, I mean, not money, but enough money. 17-1 right now on the 8.
Andrew Smith, owner
Will. I just look back at his turf races or her turf races at Delaware and Parks. You know, and against what arguably could be tougher than this. And I know that's back in 2019, but you know, 2 starts over synthetic since coming to Woodbine off. You know, since November of last year, but I don't know, picked up by a new owner and trainer who's got some decent ROI numbers. And again, if this horse can return to what she was on the turf in her last starts, even on the turf, I think this horse has to have some form of shot in here. And 17-1 is kind of the money, like the legit money that I was hoping to see, because if this horse is like 50 or 60-1, I think you say, okay, well, we can just move on. But at this price, obviously, well, right there, Jeff Brad actually picks horse for 2nd. I don't know. This horse intrigues me, and I like the fact that the horse is taking some money. What do you guys think?
You want me to go first? I'll go first.
I mean,
or you go first.
Okay. Go for it.
All right.
Tell the hardest guy that he's crazy.
No, look, I don't think it's crazy. I think crazier things have happened, and I will say that, like, I also, you know, I looked at those races, I actually watched all those races, and I thought she looked pretty good. I mean, look, she's a 5-year-old. She's, you know, I mean, you know, these are all, you know, mostly 3-year-olds, and I think you got a 4-year-old or 2 in here. So look, I mean, presumably she's had some issues getting to the races. She's had some issues along the way. So I don't know what the full story is, but they obviously started her out at a bottom level. She ran, you know, well enough there for them to say, you know what, we could actually, you know, run her in for a little bit of a higher tag. Didn't run there, but that was over soft ground. I mean, she didn't run terribly there, just didn't run really well. And then, you know, the race, the last time we saw her on the turf at Delaware, you know, I didn't think she ran a terrible race too. She was just sort of, you know, kind of like one-paced late. I don't know how that Delaware and Parks, you know, turf, you know, maiden 16 and maiden 12s, how that transfers to Woodbine. I mean, Emily, I would imagine you have a better sense for that.
Well, I think my concern wasn't so much that, but she's running in those races. She's running at a fairly short price and not winning, so that's just kind of a negative. And then she came over here. She was running at a much softer level and just not doing much running. Now she's been off 271 days. There's been 3 scratches this season on July 25th, August 1st, August 16th. I don't have a reason why. I'm not sure if she was on AE, probably in that last one. It's kind of that common race. Now the blankers are coming off. It's just there's a lot of things that are just kind of like experimental in this spot. Getting back to those races, and again, 4-year-old, starting her career off as a 4-year-old. So Dan mentioned obviously some issues there. Those races would be competitive in this field, but they don't give her any edge. So I mean, I think if you are like, she runs back to those races, she can somewhat compete in here, then I think that you would want to price. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't quite get there, but I can see why. I did look at her for those reasons. And ultimately, that's kind of what I came up with. Just there's too many kind of red flags in this spot for me to kind of take her.
Emily,
with others that have some recency.
Emily, would you say that she's capable, or is she just outside of capable?
I think if they willed her as much as they wanted to,
look at this.
we can get her.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is like the hunch box right there. Capable. The other horse that I liked was Caller Joey. I'm a Dice K fan, and he gets back on this horse. So I landed on the 5 and 8. And again, I was just curious because I thought the horse might just be some astronomical price. And to be honest, that would probably, and again, you're looking for the biggest price, but it might push me away a little more if the horse was taking no money. When I saw the horse taking, steady money to stay at this price between 16 to 1 and 20 to 1 since the betting opened, I was a little more intrigued. So I listen. I appreciate the insights, and we'll see. I may have a little tiny wager, tiny play on this one here.
Yeah, look, I think that there are worse long shots you could chase. I've used her underneath in a couple of tickets that I played here. I basically keyed the 6 over the 1, 3, 7, and 8, and then I used 5 a little bit in the 3rd and 4th spot on a couple of super tickets that I played. Emily, are you all Bosco Bell here?
I'm locked in on the 1. I think it's still like a crazy price. She opened up at 10, took a little money in the double. It's been on the drift since. But one horse that's worth mentioning, Daily Double SW, says likes the 10. I think the 10 is super capable. I was concerned just in terms of value. I mean, last time out kind of seemed like that was a spot they sort of made those changes. And I wasn't crazy about her at 4 to 1. You're getting a little bit more than that right now, but maybe that's not always the best sign for these connections. But I can't fault that play. I think it makes sense in this spot.
Well, and our man who's been hot all night, the fake Maven, in case you missed it, going with 4, 5, and 7. Looks like his top pick is Sweet Shades. I didn't love Sweet Shades. I don't have it up in front of me right now. I thought she was one who might be better off cutting back rather than going longer. But look, fake Maven has known more than me tonight. So we'll see.
I think she's been right there with the 5. Those two just kind of visually are coming out of the same races. And so if you're getting 2 to 1 on one and 5 to 1 on the other, that's kind of a no-brainer for me from that perspective.
Yep. See if we get the sound back here. Oh.
Okay, number 8 is Willed. Out wider,
right.
Miss Evangeline. Miss Evangeline goes in.
If for whatever reason you don't hear the sound, let me know.
Now pass to Emily.
No, I can hear it.
I got it.
Yeah, ready. It's so odd. I don't know why it is. Like the person running it can't hear the sound unless I like turn the sound totally up within the tab. But if I do that, like right now, it'll play the sound from Woodbine, from Mohawk as well. So it's just super disorienting. So I'm trying not to do it. Anyhow, here they go. Last race of the night at Woodbine.
Locked up. Off their race.
Oh.
And a good start to the inside. Coming out well.
Is that the 8 that just veered out there?
There was a bunch of them. Looked like 9 and 5 also were kind of
Yikes.
happened
going up on the outside.
Well, we're going to get the answer to our question with Lakshmi. See how far she can go on the front end.
Into the turn. In behind runners in the early stages.
He's also taking that turn pretty wide. Ooh, not good.
Emily swung very wide into the first turn. Last on the inside behind Queen in the court.
There's a lot of crazy that's already happened. They really want to make me work for these trip notes in the last race of the night.
That sets up nicely for Bosco Bell. All them going nuts. Opened it right up for Bosco Bell, and you know, I think that's where we know we want to be, is right on the inside there, going at, you know, a reasonable clip.
And Queen in her court is last. Bosco Bell on the inside, taken on again by Friday Night Magic, and coming at them 3 wide capable.
Maybe not being pressed by 40 to 1. But you know.
Go towards the 3/8. Running up on the outside.
I mean, the horse that I really like, the top natural habitat, is still there. We'll see. I don't know.
Lakshmi dropped out from
court.
Now
Capable looks
starting to wind up. And last
capable.
is Will. They come down to the final quarter. And out in front by a length is Capable from Natural Habitat. Sweet Shade starting to roll.
4's got some run. I would give it to 4 right now.
Comes up in the center. A little bit of trouble there with Miss Evangeline tossing the rider.
Ooh, 4's got this. 5's
Sweet
come in.
Shades has gone out in front of Capable, and finishing on is Call Her Joey when it's all over. Sweet Shades gets the lead down to the wire, and Sweet Shades will go on and score by a length and a half to Call Her Joey, or on the inside, Capable.
Fake Maven, you're officially invited onto next week's show. Get in touch, reach out.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we need to have you on next week. Went 3 for 3 tonight. Absolutely crushed it. Fake Maven, reveal yourself and come on the show next week.
I'm seeing 10 got abused. I think a few others got abused throughout this race.
Let's see. The nine who actually went down earlier was Miss Evangeline with Davey Morin up. So hope he's okay, and hope that the horse is okay. If we see anything on social or anywhere that's, you know, anything that's posted, we'll obviously convey it.
But yeah, let's see what happened at the start. Oh, the 9 broke slow, and then the 8 came out. It was 8, 9, 10, and then another incident with 5 and 6 at the start. That's why 5 was so far back early. Yeah, bit of a mess. Bit of a mess there.
Victory lap here for Fake Maven.
SPN, DD Exact and Try. Boom.
There we go. Nice hit, Sean. All right. So we'll see. I don't know. Did you see anything there that might have indicated one way or another? Oh, it looks
the
like
9 got up, and looks like the riders kind of slowly got up. So
he did get up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the horse looks, the 9 looks fine. I mean, the horse, I mean, you know, as best you could tell, I mean, it doesn't look like the horse is in any distress, at least. Looks like was pulled up there by the outrider, and is hopefully going to be okay. So we'll see. I mean, I didn't see anything in terms of, you know, I don't. Well, let's see. They've got the inquiry sign up by the 6 and the 7. So
I imagine, yeah, I was gonna say it's probably for what happened at the start.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this. Let's see what happens here.
Sean, tell us you still have the try here.
The 6 is restless in the gate. Oh, what's happening?
We'll keep this screen up here as they review this, and we'll wait for it to go official. But there's just a couple of minutes left till the second at Mohawk, so as not to once again put you up against the clock here, Robert. Do you want to start just talking about that race a little bit and set it up for us?
Sure, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, so race 2 is it's not for non-winners of 2, 4-year-olds and younger. And last week, the horse that we thought couldn't lose, Captain Nemo, was way too far out of it. But the horse that actually won that race in here, Shelton Sealster, he broke his maiden last week, and really looked like a whole new horse, first time on Lasix. And I know this is one that they had high hopes for, racing in stakes races, to start the season off. And I really think that he is definitely my top choice in here. And there's a few others that I do like underneath, and that would be the 6 Shadow and Red, which we'll take a look at shortly. And that one figures to be a bit of a price currently 3-1. So that goes out the window from morning line of 8-1. And Mac, who's been very consistent in this class right now at 2-1. So we're landing right on the favorites. And the horse that I thought would take all the action at 2-1 morning line is Poseidon Sealster. This horse is literally the worst drawing, post-drawing horse on the planet. He drew 4 consecutive 8-holes and then a 9-hole. So 5 consecutive starts. What are the odds of that? Drawing 8 or worse. And now tonight draws the 2-hole, but really lacks, early speed, except for one start where he did flash it. And he's one that I thought would be taking all the action tonight. Currently 9-2 though. So if you like a horse that might be flying late, that's offering value right now, that might be the one you want to land on at 9-2. But again, I really like Shelton Sealster. He was meant to be a good horse. They had really high hopes for him. I know they really struggled to get him to mind his manners early on in his career. Last year at 2 when they did try him in the Golds, and now this year, racing, beating maidens last time and now racing on owners at 2, he's a far cry from what they expected. So I think he is where I would probably be putting my money right now. He was just 5-2 back down to 2-1. If he stays 2-1 or higher, that's a price I could accept. Below that, I'd probably look elsewhere.
All righty. It's now 0 minutes to post, but they're not at the gate yet. So we'll keep it here for a moment, hoping this goes.
They most likely won't until this is. They usually won't until this is made official, right? Because
it should be on Racing Night Live as well.
Right,
right
they're
now.
going to have to try to get through this first. They might have to for time constraints, so we'll see.
Now, are they looking at both? Are they looking at the start and that? I mean, are they looking at cable?
I think that they're looking at the incident, but also looking at the start. So, I mean, to me, I don't think there should be any change at the start. I mean, the 5 had this kind of brutal trip, but the 5 broke slow, which caused the 4 to come out, the 6 to come in, and kind of getting her squeezed. In my opinion, it's like when that happens, I know there's contact and the other horses kind of initiated it, but horses run to empty spaces. So if you break slow and you create an empty space and you get hit, it's kind of like nobody can really be held at fault, right? It's like everybody breaks even and somebody comes out, totally different. And then as far as like that move on the turn, I mean, it looked like the 9 just went kind of right into the 5 and lost her footing and fell. So I don't think there should be any change here. It didn't look like there's anything that you can really say like this one person was at fault. It was a pretty big chain reaction of errors. It's hard to like blame one person, in my opinion.
So having now sort of the luxury of kind of doing it from the position we're doing it in, which is, obviously we can't actually impact the decision here. And also now having done these live streams and live shows for the better part of this year, as we've adjusted our lives to not being at the track all that much. So we do shows from home. This scenario has come up quite a few times. And actually it's interesting. This is the one thing that, if you're on horse racing Twitter, you can relate to this. Whenever there's an inquiry, whenever there's an objection, whenever there's a review, there are so many people who, this is what they they get excited about. I mean, it's always a conversation. It's always a discussion. I wonder what I would have to pay either of you to actually agree to be a steward, and also to have your name published publicly for people to know who you were. I mean, it seems like just about the worst job in the world, even though it's exciting for us because we don't, actually have to make this decision. It seems like, that there's really, there's no upside to it. I don't think there's any glory that comes with it. It's just all,
Well, there is one thing that comes with it.
What's that?
A paycheck.
And you get to watch races all day, every day.
That's true.
I mean, I would do it. Obviously I've watched enough races and it'd be fair. But again, just like the horses, it just comes down to, what the value is. Yeah, you're going to, just like anything, you're probably not going to be perfect, but you should be fair. I mean, there's certain calls to me, like the stuff I just mentioned, as far as like the incident at the gate, like that should be like an automatic, like just look, if one of the horses broke slow and the other one's caused contact, no change. Like that just should be like automatic, because horses just do what they do. And then really understand, like we talk about trouble, like there's trouble that happens in the race, but how much does it really like impact the finish? Was this horse, making a move at the time? Was this horse going to be competitive? The answer is no, then like no change. And then you give days or whatever, like those types of things. But it should be from the perspective of the gambler is first, protecting them, most of all, and then kind of working backwards from that perspective.
Well, so a little bit of an Emily being a steward red board. She called this 5 minutes ago. There would be no change, and there it is on the bottom of your screen. No change, indeed. Looks like they're going to keep it up as is. And yeah, if there are tracks that are hiring, although Emily's made it clear she has no time at the moment to do it.
Make me an offer.
Oh my God. All right. Let's we're gonna switch off of this, stop this screen, and thank Emily again for another awesome show. How many we have left? I know you've been doing the countdown. Is it 3 left? Okay.
3 left. Three left.
Go over to the calendar.
It's busy weeks. I mean, we've got, kind of the lead up into the Derby, right? We've got that week, and then, the 10th is the last day. And then next week, we've got like the summer just kind of winds down. So a busy 3 weeks.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. We'll maybe get into some Derby talk next week at some point, in addition to handicapping the races with you next Thursday. But Emily, thank you again for your time tonight.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you guys. Good luck. 2 more races.
Bye, Emily.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
All right. Look at that. How about that timing?
Look at that. 20 seconds to go here.
Real quick. If anyone's just tuning in now, what's the bet right here?
I mean, I like Sheldon Sealster. The 2. A lot of guys on Twitter right now are talking about the 2, but he's going to always get the play because he's flashy. He closes from the clouds. He looks like $1 million in the last quarter every single week. Sheldon Sealster, I think I put it all together with this horse right now. He's 9-5. I wish it was a better price, but I really believe they may have figured this horse out. Fantastic on Lasic's first time. Lasik is supposed to actually really bring up a horse in his second start on it, and that's where we are tonight with this one, 2-1 now. I don't mind Mac. The shoeing change from Still the Loon on him is a similar one that we saw in the first race, so it might bump him up a little bit tonight. But I really believe Sheldon Sealster is the one to beat, and if he goes forward off the gate, he'll be tough to catch.
For the second race.
All right, here they
Thursday night from Mohawk Park.
Here they come. Yeah, the Mac did take a lot of money there.
That's a lot of late money. Yep. And that shoeing change, we talked about it before.
Here they come.
Sealed aluminum is one that they are looking for more speed from the horse. So
Good speed again from Mac from the outside.
And here he comes, crossing over like clockwork. Sheldon Sealster getting away 6th. I don't like that. I mean, they might be trying some different tactics with him tonight, but I don't like the fact that he gets away 6th. And Poseidon Sealster much closer tonight in the 3-hole.
As they make their way to the quarter marker is Mock.
We'll have to see how this pans out. Hopefully they're going a good clip here. 26 and 3, legit enough.
Speed to get him there. Back into the
second quarter will tell the story.
It's Choirmaster over Poseidon Sealster, closing up as Salzburg Kaizen. Another length and a half to Shelton Sealster.
How about Choirmaster at 66 to 1?
Yeah, he's just been one that kind of hangs though. Like he kind of hangs around and then fades in the stretch. Shelton Sealster first up now. Poseidon Sealster stayed in and would have likely picked up cover from that one actually. Shadow and Red's the horse that I picked for second. I thought he'd be a bomb play. Goes off at 3 to 1. Mac on top, but here comes Shelton Sealster. We'll see if Jody can brush by him here. He looks pretty strong right now, but McNair just picked him up. So
Shelton Sealster is up alongside him.
Mac looks like he's on his game tonight.
In at the rail 4th is Choirmaster.
Doesn't look like he's getting by, huh?
No, turned him away in a hurry, but we'll see. He might go to re-rally. Poseidon Sealster, for all his supporters tonight, if he doesn't get the job done tonight, he'll never get the job done because he's closer than ever, and he is flying in the center of the racetrack right now.
There he is.
But we'll see. I said to one guy on Twitter, he always finds a way to not get there. Let's see tonight.
He's 2.5 off that lead. Mac brings it into the
and it looks like he's going to find a way to not get there again tonight. He's hanging and hanging and hanging like a chandelier. Mac wins it. It's funny because I've been on that horse every week. And that's why I wouldn't come back to him this week because it's his kind of his prototype is he lets you get that heart racing and then just hangs. So, but Mac with the shoeing change again, that was kind of what I was worried about with him. I think I picked him for 3rd in the journal. Yeah, journal picks were unfortunately 1-6-7-2, race run 7-2. I'm alive small in the pick 5, but 5 to 2 on to 8 to 5. We're not really.
It looks like the price hung on there for 3rd at 66 to 1.
Choirmaster might throw some value on onto the ticket. That's for sure.
So Gio Ponte getting back in a groove here.
Yeah, there it is.
So keep rolling there, Gio. Let us know who you got the rest of the card. We're going to dive into the rest of the card, and I'm going to break out my pen and paper. Before we do, again, for newbies out there to the harness racing world, and especially for people who don't often play Mohawk, tell me about what's coming up at the end of the month, August 29th?
August 29th, yeah. It's a big night of racing at Mohawk. And we have eliminations this Saturday for 2 of the races, that being the Fan Hanover and the North America Cup. It's for the 3-year-old colts, the rock stars of the sport. There's 2 eliminations on Saturday. Top 5 of each will make the final. They're going to go for $1 million in the North America Cup on the 29th, which is my favorite race of the year. The Fan Hanover that night, $450,000 final. Same thing on Saturday. Top 5 in each division will go to will make it to the big dance. And the Armbro Flight and the Roses Are Red will just go straight to a final on the 29th. So a huge night of racing, and I'm excited to be hosting it. And giving my thoughts on the card. So and I mean, there's a horse in the Fan Hanover that she'll probably be a massive favorite in her elimination, but I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I'm hoping. I'm already kind of like trying to navigate what her price will be in the final because I think she's just an absolute creature. So that's Party Girl Hill. I'm super excited to see her up here.
All right, and so that's August 29th, North American Cup night. We still have to identify a time, figure out what time the show's on. But if you follow us on Twitter, I'm sure you'll see it all over the place. We'll be tweeting about it, so you know exactly when to tune in. Ashley, I'm happy to say, will be joining us for that as well. And so we'll be getting both perspectives. And I think the both of you together, when you're on together, it's, you could almost 100% you're gonna get an opinion that you're gonna get the winner somehow between the two of you. Sometimes you agree, but at the very least, between the two of you, we'll have a winning opinion. Just so I'm clear on it, are we gonna be seeing similar horses that were like the horses that were at like Hambletonian, or are these like different horses? Like, what can people expect there?
Well, we'll see some of them. So a lot of them, have been up here racing in the OSS Golds. Like, for example, of course, like Bowman Hanover and Tattoo Artists. They've been racing on the Canadian side of the border. And that's the great thing about the North America Cup, is that it's really the battle of the border, right? Now, because of COVID and the times we're living in, we don't have as many coming up, but we still have, Tall Dark Stranger, who is, an absolute monster, winner of the Meadowlands Pace, winner of the Cane Pace. One of my favorite horses on the entire planet, and it was a champion at 2. He's coming up here, and he is going to be the overwhelming favorite to win the elimination. And right now, if there was a future bet on the final, he'd already be probably less than even money. That might even be an overlay on him. That's how good that one is. But he'll be up here, as well as a number of others that have been racing, like Alleywag Hanover. And a plethora of others coming up from stateside. So it'll be interesting, because we do have some pretty strong ones on the Canadian side this year that will definitely, make a strong race of it. The problem is that if you're tuning in Saturday night, the first elimination is stacked. And I mean, it's almost unfair that there's 5 of them going to make the final out of 8, I believe. And there's horses actually they're going to miss the final that I would have in my top 10 for sure. So
wow,
it's just luck of the draw. But that race, the first elimination is Murderer's Row. It really is. Second elimination is top heavy with 2 invaders. From south of the border, and the rest, I would say you can kind of throw a blanket over them. So there will be a couple of longer ones that make it into the final. But the unfortunate thing is, like I said, like when I did the journal, I had to write it today for Saturday night. I really struggled a little bit with the underneath horses, because elimination race is a little bit different, right? Top 5 make the final, so there's it's a little bit different, the jockeying for position, and trying to get a spot, because the goal, is obviously to win. It's a $50,000 purse, but you also certainly don't want to end up getting a horrible trip and getting beat out a 5th, and missing the final, which goes for $1 million. So, it'll be an interesting night, and all eyes will be on that first elimination, because it literally has just killers all around in it. So
I'm still trying to process how I feel about you referring to the horses from the U.S. as the invaders from south of the border.
Well, I mean, for us it is, right? I mean, and again, understanding that, my favorite horse is Tall Dark Stranger, who has spent a lot of time here. He's raced on the OSS. Yeah. But has spent most of his time stateside, and is just an absolute pleasure to watch. One of, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure most have seen the Meadowlands Pace final, but in horse racing, you don't see a comeback. It's very rare. When a horse gets, we watched it just now, as soon as, Mac kind of took over again from Sheldon Sealster's race is over. Tall Dark Stranger was beat. Like, or maybe about a quarter of the way through the stretch, you wouldn't have given someone 10 cents for their tickets, and he battled back to win. So a real impressive equine athlete that I can't wait to see once again up close.
So we've got a little bit of time here to the third race, the final race of the night. We'll show you. By the way, as always, want to remind people that we do this show every Thursday night. It's called Woodbine Live, presented by Dark Horse and by Woodbine. And while we are streaming live here, if you're in the U.S., you can watch Racing Night Live, which is a program every Thursday night that broadcasts on TSN throughout Canada. You could watch Racing Night Live, though, in the U.S. on America's Best Racing's YouTube channel. Now, if you're in Canada, you watch on TSN. That shows 6 to 8 every Thursday night. 3 races from Woodbine, 3 races here from Woodbine Mohawk to close out the night. We've got one more race tonight, but we don't leave you shorthanded. We also get into the late pick 4 and any late sequences that Robert has a strong feeling on. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance, Robert, to, assuming you have it nearby, show off
right here
some of the goods here, because we know we're all collectors and hobbyists. So we love baseball cards and we love wrestling. So what do you got?
So I'm going to just show you one of them, and it's the best one. So I picked up a lot today, and maybe we'll share some more in the future. But I'm a huge sports card collector, and I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a wrestling nerd. I mean, my biggest collection of sports cards is wrestling cards. But so, who is one of the greatest of all time? They call him the Great One, the Brahma Bull, the Rock. I mean, he really was kind of like my childhood. Him and Stone Cold Steve Austin were 2 wrestlers that I absolutely loved during the Attitude Era of the WWE. And he has like the card market, sports card market has gone through the roof. And this card, one of the cards that's in this piece here, and it's still got some of the wrap on it because I want to keep it safe. But that card there is one of the most coveted cards out there. Let's try to get the reflection out of the light there, but you can see it. So that's a figure of The Rock, obviously a pretty good likeness of him too, with the championship belt. But that card is one of the most coveted cards of The Rock. You can see his signature on it, and it sells for outrageous numbers right now on eBay.
What's the what year and brand is that?
I'd have to look it up. I believe it's it's a 90. I want to say it's a 97.
Wow. Okay. What is that on the bottom? What is that card on the bottom?
That's a matte relic. So that's a piece of a mat from his match at WrestleMania. And WrestleMania, what is that? 28.
Wow.
So anything The Rock right now has gone through the roof. That card there, nice. I think the most recent comps is over $1,000 on that card. So I got to keep that quiet from my wife. Bought that.
So where did you pick that up? Like, can you just pick that up today?
So yeah, so that actually I give him a shout out. This is a guy, a buddy of mine that I actually met him. We became friends through the sports card circuit. Go to all the shows, pre-COVID, obviously. And when you go to the sports card shows like the National in Canada, there's only one guy that's got a wrestling booth now. There's gonna be more now, but and last few years, one guy with a booth, and he makes these shadow boxes. His name's Sasha. He's not on Instagram yet. He's not on Twitter. He's not on Facebook. I told him today. I bought 8 of these off him today. Shh, don't.
Oh my God!
Do not tell Megan if she sees.
What did you hit? I thought you had a bad week last week.
I did, but there's some in the reserve. So, but anyways, some to collect, some to maybe obviously resell so that I can keep my hobby going. But he makes these, and I told him when he does get on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I will give him a shout out because he does a fantastic job, and he does it with literally anything. Like if you have a favorite basketball player, he'll put one of those together for you.
That's awesome. Really cool. So did you buy a bunch of those specifically, or did you get different
wrestlers? So my 2 favorite wrestlers, or 2 of my top 5 or 10, I'd say, are The Rock and Sting.
Okay.
So I got one of Sting, Demolition, the tag team. I got picked up Rey Mysterio.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And there's he made a women's championship one of Charlotte. So for current fans, Charlotte, Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch. So it's like a trio. So yeah, they're really.
You have that now? What are they all signed cards there too, or
that one's got matte relics, so no autographs, but matte relics. Everything else has autos in it. So I'm geeking out right now. But
well, you definitely need to hit a race or 2 now to.
Yeah, trust me. If this weekend goes bad, then I'm going to have some explaining to do for sure. So please pray for me, guys. But here we are. So we're in the 3rd race now. We're going to have some time after this probably to break down the rest of the cards.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yep.
Let's go right to the 3rd here, which is OSS Trotters. Of the 2-year-old variety. So we've seen, and I know, Dan, you're gonna say it. We always see someone break stride in here, and we likely will tonight. We likely will see a breaker or 2 in here. But the horse that I did put on top in the journal is the 4, Fashion Frenzy. Now 1 to 2 right now. So Tokyo Sealster's the 1, which is kind of crazy because in previous
we
weeks,
like Tokyo Sielster.
Tokyo Sielster's a monster.
Yeah.
Now everyone's jumping off him because he just got beat in a 2-year-old condition race, just an overnight race. But keep in mind, he won 3 in a row before that, including 2 golds. And I just, I'm a little bit shocked that he's 5-1. That's crazy. 2-1 morning line, 5-1 right now. Fashion Frenzy has been an absolute robot. But there's a reason why Dustin Jones is driving this horse. He's the trainer. He's driving him most likely because he doesn't really think anyone else can probably handle this horse. Made multiple breaks in a qualifier on July 17th in prepping for his first lifetime start. Then qualified like an absolute monster the following, well, it was only just 3 days later. And now is just blowing everyone away. 13-length winner in the grassroots, and then back-to-back 7-length victories against 2-year-old condition types in the overnights. 3 for 3 lifetime, 2 to 5. You can't do it. I mean, this horse might jump it off. In my pick 5, even tonight, I didn't even key him as much as I do love this horse and think he might run off the screen, and I'm okay with that because I love watching horses that are just freaks like this one is. But I used 1, 3, 4 in my pick 5 here. Tokyo Sielster at 6-1 is definitely an overlay. And interestingly enough, if you look at the 3, which really is crazy to me, 6-1. The pick 3 on the 1 is $56. The pick 3 on the 3 is $600. So you've got a times 10 differential between the two, and the pick 3, and they're the same odds right now at 6-1. I might be inclined to try, one of those 2 or both of them, and just say, well, if the 4 wins, the 4 wins. I mean, hats off to him. He does look like he's much the best in here if he minds his manners, but that's a big question mark, especially on a horse that the trainer, who is not a regular driver, has basically, he's only got 15 drives this year.
Wow.
Has said, I'm not handing the lines over to anyone yet. I'm going to keep driving this one. Trust me, it's not because he wants the 5%, guys. It's because this horse is one that might be a little bit difficult to drive. And I think that if the 3 or the 1 land on his back too, he's been pulverizing his competition, but he's been coming home in 29 and 28. So, I mean, one of them could maybe even run him down, even if, all things are fair tonight and he does stay on his gate. The other horse I threw in for 4th is the 8, Walk on the Moon. 8-hole, really tough spot, 19-1. Those, again, a big price on that one. So this should be interesting to see how it plays out, because I was not expecting Tokyo Sielster to be 5-1. He had no chance the way the race unfolded last time, and I think people are sour on him because he blew up at 1-5, but I certainly thought he'd be more in the neighborhood of 8-5, 9-5, and the 4 would be where he is at 2-5. The 3, at 7-1, that's legit money on this horse, and it's a $106,000 purse for the race. But I would definitely think that that might mean that there might be a little more than meets the eye here, especially considering he's coming out of a qualifier where he was beat by a horse who just won last night and won impressively. So don't discount him at 8-1. I'd be looking at the 1 or the 3 here and just hope for the best, trying to beat the 4. And if he beats you, he beats you.
That late money now coming in on Tokyo Sielster. I put some win money in on him. Not enough to drop him down from 6-1 to 7-2 in a flash, but look, Tokyo Sielster's been good to me, so I'm gonna give it back. There you go, 3-1 right now, and still 2-5 on Fashion Frenzy. You can see our friend Gio Ponte here with some coverage in a bigger pick 5, and the 4 as a single on a smaller ticket. We've also got our friend Daily Double, hoping for a few breakers. You're watching the right show.
Well, just last week, right, we were talking about Tokyo Sielster and Macho Martini being the 2 rock stars of this division. And now here we are this week, and you're getting this price on them. The 3, so they're talking about See My Kicks Hanover, and that was one of the ones we were going to try to beat the 4 with.
There's the 5.
So, and now the 5 blew up. So there's the 2. So the over-under just hit. We have 2 breakers in the field.
Oh, that didn't take long.
And the 8, from the 8-hole, trying to get to the lead. And interestingly enough, Fashion Frenzy, we're going to see, if he can be a little more versatile this week, because he's going to have to use that delayed leave tactic, left on the outside, now go to the front. Well, we'll see if he can win like this, because every other week he's been winning just as a complete runaway. Like he's probably going to open a wide margin right now and then just go hell bent for leather and hope for the best. We'll see. He looks like he's going to try to rate him. Be the first time this horse has been rated and kept within a reasonable margin of his competitors. So Tokyo Sealster sitting fourth right now.
Let me know when you start worrying about him.
Not yet. I mean, he's in a decent spot, but again, this horse is trotting very comfortably on the front end right now. Dustin Jones just put the whip over his back, so we're gonna find out in a hurry if Tokyo can go with him. The two just packed it in, so it looks like it's gonna be these two to square off.
56.
If he can get to him, which right now he's struggling to get near him. Fashion Frenzy, not a runaway winner like he was last time, but still.
What about this little move here? We got a little move up the rail, you think? Up the pylon?
So right now, strides have shortened on the 4, but he's still holding him at bay. And here comes Full of Muscles. The 6 is flying right now.
Wow.
Probably gonna just hang at the wire, and Fashion Frenzy wins by about a head. We said we might just have to tip our cap to this one and say, nice race, which he did. He came home in 30 seconds today, though. That's what we were talking about. We're hoping that we could take advantage of that. But no dice there. Tokyo Sealster just not good enough. And See My Kicks Hanover we didn't get to see because he broke stride behind the gate. Very interesting race, though, the way that's kind of played out, because I thought Fashion Frenzy would be, just trying to pulverize them on the front end, and I mean, I guess in the end he did, but he's one to watch. I mean, over 4 now lifetime, but again, he doesn't come home the best. You can see that. I mean, he's all done at the wire.
Yep. I had a little bit of hope early when he was kind of caught a little, when he was outside, and I was like, oh, what is he going to do? I mean, and then when he, just sort of in an instant went from being kind of stacked out a little bit to just being on the lead, cruising. He just made it seem so easy. I was like, all right, I guess this is not happening tonight. But look, Tokyo I thought ran a nice, an honorable race there.
Yeah, he's been a really strong horse on the front end. Really, in all of his wins, he was cutting the mile. Now it looks like they're trying to race him from just off the pace, which is okay. I mean, he's going to be a little more versatile, but certainly has slowed down a little bit from the dominant force he was when the season first opened. But again, you can't really take much away from him. Finishing third in a gold. He's almost got 100. Well, he did have almost 100,000 made before the race. Now he's over the 100,000 mark for the year, so not bad for his rookie season.
All right. Well, we have 5 minutes to go tonight. My favorite part of the night. This is the part of the night where Robert gives us a look ahead. Even though we're going to be wrapping up here, we all want some action for later tonight at Mohawk. What do you got?
Well, so we're just gonna start in race 4 because I didn't actually put a best bet on the card when I did the journal, but to me, there's a horse in race number 4 that I think is a probable winner, and a horse you might be able to key in multi-legs, and maybe worth a flat bet if the price is right. But that's number 7, Voles Delight. Last time racing against much tougher in the OSS grassroots, now drops down to a race restricted to Ontario sired horses, but has an earnings cap of $5,000 on it. So this horse kind of hung on the outside last time, but flew home in 54-4 and her back half and came home in 27 seconds flat. So as much as it looked like she was kind of hanging and not going by, there was good reason for it. I mean, they were sprinting and she was probably open throttle. So coming from around 5th last time and then, having to close into it, I think this horse will be more interested off the gate tonight and might be be the horse you want to single in your early pick 4 starting in the 4th race.
Okay.
And maybe even worth a flat bet. Again, though, only if the price is right. 2-1 morning line. I'm a little bit concerned the horse might get bet off the board. The wager that I was tasked with tonight for the broadcast team was the late pick 5. And I've kind of even maybe added to it a little bit since I sent it in, just based on some of the changes, equipment changes, and some other things that I've seen in reviewing the card. But starting in race number 6, I'm using the 2, 3, 7. 1 second. Sorry. No, starting in race number, let's try that again. Starting in race number 6, I'm using the 3, 4, and 6. Okay. Now the 4 is McWicked 1, who is a son of McWicked and is the only, full of McWicked so far. He continued, racing, but did sire this foal, and has been racing, well south of the border. Now makes his Canadian debut. 2-1 morning line. I'm not willing to key him though. I am going to look for a price, and the horse that I think might be able to blow up the board. And if I had have picked a live long shot for tonight, it would have been number 3, a Game Changer. So this horse is one that if you're looking for a price play tonight, and a horse has been racing really good, that might be able to step up and now get the job done, especially getting an inside post. And this horse is loaded with speed. If Lyle MacArthur, the driver and trainer, decides to summon it tonight, he's one that you definitely want to look at, and he should be a pretty big price, especially drawing it against a high-profile horse like McWicked 1, with killer connections in Casey Coleman. Throwing in Solid Man too, just because he's been racing fantastic lately, and I don't want to get beat by him. But 3, 4, 6 in the first leg. Spreading out.
Before we move on to the next leg, Lyle MacArthur. That's not a name I've seen often.
No, so he actually trained horses for my father way back in the day, probably before I was born, and he has been, he's been a horseman in the sport for going back at least 30 years, and has had some really good ones. Trains them himself, likes to drive them himself as well. Weighs in at 223 pounds, so. Nice. That's what's on the book. And again, but he is a good horseman, and he can drive. I mean, he's one of the trainers that when he does sit in the bike as well, he can get the job done. And this horse actually was a rocket 3 starts back at Georgian Downs. And I've been 2 starts back at Mohawk Park. He was fantastic. Finished second after going Park the Route. And I really am waiting to cash on this horse. Hoping that it might be tonight, but again, the 2 that he does have to face in the 4 and the 6 are tough customers. But it should just increase the price. And again, if he does manage to get on or near the lead, then this horse is capable.
Yeah, nice. It sounds like me and Lyle MacArthur have something in common, and it's not our ability to train horses.
Yeah, well, me too. With COVID, it's definitely. Me too.
It's a bad situation. Bad situation.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is a bad situation. I saw one of my friends today that I was showing this to. I saw him for the first time in months, and the first thing he said to me was, "Dude, you got fat." And I'm like, "Well, one of my best friends said that to me."
Thanks, buddy.
And the problem is that at Woodbine, Pepsi. Being, Pepsi North America Cup, Pepsi being the official sponsor.
You're under contract to just drink it constantly.
We do. Well, we do get we get to drink free Pepsi, and that was the greatest thing ever. But the thing is, I had to walk to the machine. Now at home, I'm drinking the same amount of Pepsi. I'm just not walking to the machine to get it. So that's the problem. Anyways, let's move to the second leg of race 7. And you're gonna just scold me for this because I'm using the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 10.
Go all.
Feel free to hit the all button if you so choose. But those are the 6 horses that I'm using. I think there's some prices mixed in there. My top choice in the race is Arcanum. He is steel to aluminum tonight in the shoeing department, so they will be looking for some more speed from that one. And I do think that he is the horse to beat. Club Belvedere is my bomber. From post 10, the trailing position, Trevor Henry in the bike. I think he might be able to bring this horse up enough that maybe she can get a piece of it, or blow the tote board, which would even be better. We're going to go to race 8 and 9, and we're going to single in both those races. And for you hockey fans out there, it's going to be an Eric Lindros single, which is the 8 and 8. We got Macho Martini in race number 8. Post 8, not a concern. This horse is an absolute freak. Just been lights out in all 4 of his lifetime starts. 4 for 4, 140,000 made, under wraps in each of his efforts. I don't see him getting beat tonight in the other division of the OSS Gold for 2-year-old trotting colts and geldings. If you did want to look for a price in there, Harry, the 7, first time Trevor Henry in the bike, same connections of Pemberton, and this one I believe is actually a half brother to Pemberton. So he's definitely one that you want to keep an eye on, especially underneath as hopefully a price play. And again, if you're going to try to beat Macho Martini, he's not the worst option. And race number 9, we're going back to Captain Nemo. He's the 1-5 shot that blew up last week that sent us reeling in the pick 4 and many others reeling at the windows. Post 8 tonight, nose on the gate, second start back now after being off a year. 2-5 morning line. If he gets beat tonight, I give up. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. Don't
give up now. Don't give up now.
It's another maiden race, where the whole field combined has not made anything close to what this horse has made himself. Over $80,000 or close to $80,000 in lifetime earnings for Captain Nemo, with 5 seconds against absolute killers as a rookie. Nose on the gate tonight. He should run off the screen, but we said that last week. The last leg, using half the field, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10. My top choice in the race is Fashion on the Beach, the 5. Moving back to the big track from Grand River, a nice effort last time there. Kind of shook loose late, didn't have room, had all kinds of pace, almost got up for second. First time Lasix tonight, Richard Moreau, Doug McNair. Love everything about the connections of this one. A horse that you might want to look at for a price play is the horse I used for 3rd, Champagne Phil. Been off since January of 2019, but this horse has almost 600,000 made in his life now at the age of 10. Decent qualifiers, and gets to come back in the bottom condition class. So if he's even just a shade of what he used to be, he should have a big shot tonight and should offer some value, especially in the pick 5. So 3, 4, 6 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 with 8 with 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. Feel free to add or take away wherever you like, but that is the ticket that I am playing tonight.
All right, so I'm gonna throw it up on the screen here in a second, just so if you didn't catch it, you don't have your pen handy as you should. You could have it on the screen to look back on. Let's see. I believe we have it here. Okay, so this is the well, you got an extra line there that you don't need probably, but anyway, between races 2 and 3, your 2 singles are the 8 and the 8 in races. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 8 and 9. Macho Martini and Captain Nemo. Now, looking at this ticket as sort of your sort of foundational ticket. If you decided to go all in the second leg, this ticket would cost you $30. If you just played it as is, it would cost you $18 with a 20-cent base bet. Also, if you wanted to add Harry, I believe you said was the potential price play in race 8, that'll double the cost of your ticket. So you could go 7-8 in leg 3 for a $36 ticket, or you could just play what's on your screen for $18. Super reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like, I don't think they could beat Macho Martini. We've watched him, Dan, week over week. I mean, he's a monster.
Yeah.
But again, 2-year-old trotters,
yeah,
strange things can happen. And again, there is a reason for Harry to improve tonight and maybe improve dramatically. So we'll see.
I had to get rid of that other forward slash. I couldn't deal with 2 of them on the screen. So there it is. That's the late pick 5. Look, if you joined us tonight, we really appreciate you being here watching tonight. We kicked it off with Emily Gullikson covering 3 thoroughbred races at Woodbine. We finished it off here with Robert Reid Jr. and 3 standardbred races here at Mohawk. We do this every Thursday night. We'll be back next Thursday night starting at 6 o'clock with our old friend Ashley Mayu rejoining the party. And then, as Robert mentioned, we have a special edition of Woodbine Live. Pepsi North American Cup Night is going to be on August 29th, right? I'm trying to keep my days straight. Not this Saturday, next Saturday, although this Saturday is a huge day of racing at Mohawk. So if you're looking for some action this weekend, check out those qualifiers and all the great action at Mohawk. But definitely be prepared to tune back in on the 29th. We're going to have a big harness happy hour party here. So
we're also going to have our mandatory payout of our high five that night too.
Oh, I like that. You didn't tell me about that. All right.
The high five. So that's something that we're going to have to definitely, spend a lot of time capping because, when it's a mandatory, it pays well. They'll probably add a horse or 2 to the race. And that's something that I usually really zero in on. So mandatory payout on that evening.
All righty. Robert, thank you again. For Robert, for Emily, and for everyone on this end, thank you again for joining us tonight. We will see you next week.